Have you ever looked at your life that seemingly checked all the boxes and thought, what am I doing? You don't know what you should do, but you would almost rather jump out of a plane and build a parachute on the way down than keep going the direction you're going. I think you'd be surprised how common that feeling actually is, but most people just don't. It's that fear of the unknown. There's that fear of giving up the security that comes with that seemingly check all the boxes kind of life. For a lot of us, it's, we're trying to be responsible for our loved ones because it hits a little bit later in life and we don't feel like we can change directions because chasing your dreams over security is not right. It's not responsible. You can't do that kind of thing. And for a lot of us, it's responsibility, our feeling that responsibility, or maybe we feel selfish for wanting to give up that security or change. Well, my guest today made the leap and left what people call success, checking all those boxes, the American dreams, and decided to chase more. Craig Meredith, there are a lot of listeners that are living in a space of just hating the part of their life where they just kind of go through the motions and they're not really living. They just are thriving. They're just kind of living in that safety net and they're frustrated. They're struggling. What do you want them to hear right now about the difference between living and thriving?
So I would say that I know exactly where you are. I've been there myself. And it wasn't until I really took stock of who I wanted to be, who I was, and who I wanted to be in this world, and then started to make decisions to become that person, that things really changed. And so now life for me, like the difference between living and thriving is that you have a purpose, something bigger than you that you're going after. When you're just living, you're just going through the motions, you're kind of taking life as it comes to you, and you're kind of like a ship out at sea, just kind of bobbing, and you're at the mercy of the waves and you end up where you end up. Whereas if you're thriving, you're actually building your life. You've got a North Star and you're attacking that. And so your life is intentional and you're doing the things that you love to do and you're living life out loud.
I couldn't agree with you more if I tried. To me, it really boils down to that excitement for life again. When I was living the default life, I was going through the motions. I was having to get up and go to work. I was having to do all the things in my life. And it really feels now more like a we get to do this together. We get to build something. We get to learn. We get to live life on our terms. It's the difference between have to and get to.
Now, gents, wrap your head around that thought for about 60 seconds while we hear from our sponsor. We're going to go deep with Craig and Meredith Bennett on the cheat code to leveling up your life. Stay with us and we'll be right back.
To announce that we're having our first ever mega sale on overstock clearance and brand new products. For example, save over 50% on this season's flannel sheets. Queen size only $59.98. Kings only $69.98. They sell out fast every year, so order now. Save 20% on our brand new My Crosses. They're designed in the likeness of the one I've worn every day for over 20 years. They come in men's and women's, and they're made right here in the USA. Get our 2025 six-piece My Towel sets for only $29.98. Our initial quantities are extremely low, so get them now before they go. And our best-selling standard My Pillows, just $14.98. So go to MyPillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use this promo code to take advantage of our first ever mega sale. But wait, remember that $75 free shipping rule? Well, that ship is sailed because right now, every order ships absolutely free.
I sleep on a My Pillow. I sleep on My Pillow Giza sheets with a My Pillow body pillow. I have My Pillow towels, and my wife wears My Pillow slippers, guys. I would absolutely never recommend a company I don't use to you or believe in. We're proud to have Mike Lindell and My Pillow as sponsors of the Driven to Thrive broadcast. You can go to mypillow.com and use the promo code THRIVE. Yes, I know, super original, THRIVE, right, for the Driven to Thrive podcast. Use the code THRIVE for up to 80% off your order and free shipping on orders over $75 just for our listeners. Check out what My Pillow has to offer. It's not just bedding, guys. They have over 200 quality products, most of them American made, and I absolutely love being affiliated with the company. I use them all over my house, and I think you're going to love them too. Now, on with the show. Welcome to the Driven to Thrive broadcast, purpose, growth, and lasting impact for men. I'm your host, Brent Allen, and we help men go from living to thriving, purpose-filled, intentional lives. My guests today are Craig and Meredith Bennett of Road of Life Coaching and Road of Life Podcast. Craig and Meredith, welcome to the Driven to Thrive broadcast. This is my first interview I've done since I rebranded the show, so I'm totally going to screw this up a lot.
We're just rolling with it.
Oh, we're excited to be here. Can't wait.
Super pumped to be here. Thanks for having us.
Now, I like to start out on the lighter end. So how's your trivia skills?
Trivia
Pretty
skills,
good.
I'd say fair. Hers are way better, but let's
We'll
see.
see.
Let's see.
We'll see.
All right, some pop culture trivia for you. What does BAE stand for in slang? Is it A, babe, C, babe and everything, B, before anything else, or D, bond always eternal?
I would have said A myself.
I would have said A, but when I heard B, I want to go B.
All right. Now, guys, you know the rules. Don't cheat. Don't look ahead. Don't look this up on the Slang Dictionary. We'll get back to that later in the show because it's not really that important. In your own words today, who are Craig and Meredith Bennett?
Ooh, that's a deep one right off the
Right
hop.
off the hop, coming out hot.
I would say Craig and Meredith are, we're best friends, we're business partners, we're life partners, and we are designing the life we want to live together. We're co-creating our life so that we get to live the life of our dreams.
I would say we're purpose-driven entrepreneurs who want to make the world a better place.
I like that. Now, I was watching one of your videos, prepping for the interview. I got asked, have we taken up goat yoga yet?
Not yet. That video, very new. Still doing the research on where we're going to go for goat yoga, but we are going to do goat yoga. I'm still convincing her that we're going to do goat yoga.
I'm not super convinced I want to get peed on by a goat, but I'm willing to give it a try.
So we heard it here first. We're going to do goat yoga at some point.
Fair enough.
Yep.
Ask you guys, what did you do in the corporate world before you went all in together now?
We actually worked for the same company. We worked for a big energy company. And I started out working in employee wellness, like health and wellness. And I transitioned into HR, and equity, inclusion, diversity role.
I was in like health and safety. So helping the company prevent incidents, like big, expensive incidents that hurt people, those sorts of things. And then if we did happen to have something, do the investigation into the incident, figure out why it happened and how we can make it happen.
What do you do for a living now? Because I haven't done any introductions yet. So, what do you guys do for a living now?
Now we're relationship coaches. And I would love to tell you it was a straight line from one to the other. It definitely was not a straight line in any way, shape, or form. No matter how far you zoom out, it was not a straight line. But we did eventually settle into our happy place where we feel like we can contribute the most effectively to the world. And so we help people with relationships, primarily romantic relationships, but not exclusively. The skills that help your marriage also help every other relationship in your life. So we do definitely run the gamut of relationships for sure.
Okay. I love that I'm not the only person who thinks that. Like I've tried to explain that to people. Like, no, I don't just do romantic relationships. Like honestly, 5 Love Languages was one of the best books I ever read for my work relationships.
Totally.
Saved me so much at work.
Yeah, it's so true. It's so true. Everything that you apply to this relationship applies to all your other relationships.
Yeah. It's just often a little, not even easier, but it's just a little more convenient, if nothing else, to learn the skills at home right here and then apply them. Because I didn't want to say easy because it can be really hard, some of the things you have to do, and really uncomfortable. So it's not more comfortable at home, but it's just more convenient to learn them at home with your person. And then you can apply those same skills to your business partners, to your work relationships, to your mom, to your mother-in-law, to your sisters, to your kids, to your everybody.
So is that what the Road to Life podcast is about? Is that what y'all do?
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about your podcast.
Yeah, the podcast right now, we're kind of similar to you, a little bit of a transition time. But right now we've got one episode a week. It drops every Thursday, and we just talk about relationship strategies, stories that have, from our own relationship or from our clients, and just share strategies, tips, tactics, bite-sized chunks. They're usually about 15 minutes, 20 minutes max per episode. And now we're transitioning. We're going to keep that rolling, that one episode a week, and then we're going to add to that one episode a week, probably on a Monday or Tuesday, where we actually interview other couples or individuals who are doing something cool in relationships that the audience can also learn from. So,
yeah, we've got episode 70 coming out. Episode 69 came out yesterday. So we've very proud of ourselves that we've done 69 episodes every week consistently, never missed a week. And so we feel like we've kind of hit our groove now, and we're ready to try and, dig into what it will look like and kind of plan it out a little bit, but ready to take on the leap of adding one more a week.
Yeah.
What is something everybody should know about YouTube before we dig in today?
Something everyone should know about us is we just want to see people win. We just want to see everybody win. We've both been in stages of our life where we didn't have this. We were both in other relationships. I was single for a decade. We both know what it's like not to have a thriving relationship and how that supports every area of your life. And we just want everyone to know what that feels like. And whether that's working with us or somebody else, it doesn't really matter to us. If you can get some help anywhere you can get it, podcasts, wherever, everyone deserves to have a relationship that lifts them up and helps get them closer to their dreams.
I would say that, and we're really fun. We do it in a fun way.
Yeah.
Because not for nothing, but when you think about relationships and when they're not going well, and the idea of turning that around and dealing with all those challenges in relationships, it can feel daunting. It can feel scary. And the idea of doing the work seems unappealing, we'll say. You can do it and have fun.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, we've been getting to know Craig and Meredith just a little bit, who they are, kind of what makes them tick, to see the person behind just the names and find out a little bit how we all fit together. In this part of the show, we're going to dive into their story and what has taught them as we move through towards the cheat code to loving up your life. Now, guys, I got to ask, you had these corporate jobs where y'all were doing everything per the playbook, right? The American Dream playbook, right? You had it. You had the jobs and everything was going okay, and you had a life, and you went, maybe not. What prompted you to leap from the corporate grind, where by outside perspectives you were successful, into entrepreneurship and going your own direction?
You nailed it. You nailed it so much right there. We were doing it, right? We were checking all the boxes, based on what we were taught growing up. Go to school, get good grades, get a good job, get promoted, save for retirement, all those good things. Check. From the outside looking in, we were really successful. We were on that trajectory, getting all the promotions and all those things. And while it felt good to be successful in what we were trying to do, it also felt like we had a little bit more to offer than we were able to offer in our corporate careers. Both of us kind of felt like you're banging your head against a wall a lot of the time. And we had more to give than we were able to give in that particular box that we were in. And then we were given the gift, because we worked for the same company, that our company was closing our office. It was sort of COVID-ish and, cost cutting and all these things. And we're closing this office. And if you want to move across the country, you will keep your jobs. And in fact, you'll get promoted, or you can leave. And so that was the decision that we had. And despite, where we're sitting today, it was an incredibly stressful decision, because that corporate career was all we'd ever known, and we were good at it. And we're both very planful, love a good to-do list and checklist kind of people. And we didn't have a plan for what we would do post corporate. But at the same time, we found out my dad got cancer and actually got 2 cancers. We thought it would be his last Christmas. It wasn't. We were blessed and grateful to get 4 more Christmases with my dad, and his health was great for the vast majority of that time. So it was very interesting for us that Dad's health became the perspective that we needed to make this really stressful decision. We don't want to move across the country further from his grandmother, our parents, our nieces and nephews. Like we don't want to go further. We want to go closer so we see more of them, not less. And so that was how we made that big decision, even though we didn't know what we were going to do. We knew that we wanted to bet on ourselves, jump out of the airplane, and see if we can figure out how to build a parachute on the way down, basically.
Yeah, I mean that's exactly it. We were unfulfilled in our corporate life, and when the company kind of gave us this option, at first it was like, whew, it's scary to leave everything you've ever known, but at the same time there was something calling us that it was just, you've got more on your heart to give. Like it felt like settling, like we weren't living our purpose, like there was more on our heart to give the world, like there was something within us that we could do to make the world a better place, and it didn't feel like we were able to do that where we were. And so when they made this decision and offered us this opportunity, it was just like kind of like a flashing road sign saying off ramp, you can exit here. In the moment it wasn't as obvious, but now looking back it was like, yeah, that was absolutely what was happening, and I'm so thankful that we were able to see that for what it was in the moment, for sure.
It's always fun in that hindsight where you can look back at something and go, that didn't seem great at the moment, but that was actually probably the best. I lost a job years ago when I was young, married with my wife. Like we've been married almost 24 years now. And I think we were in our 2nd year of marriage or 3rd year of marriage, and I lost my job, the job we had moved across country for. And in hindsight, like it was such a great move. But
yeah,
at the time it was like, oh, I got to go home and tell my wife I got fired today.
Yeah,
that hurts.
Yeah, and it's scary,
right? That's the last thing you want to go home and tell your spouse.
Yeah, it's scary when that stuff happens and you just don't know what you're going to do. And if we felt the exact same, it was like, oh my God, that's everything we know though. And like, what if we leave, what next? And it's like, you'll figure it out. It's all, and that's actually one of the biggest lessons we learned on this whole thing came from this whole situation was the universe is actually always working in your favor. Like the big bad thing that's happening to you right now, it may feel like the big bad thing, but it's actually, it will end up being one of the best things that happens to you.
So you guys said this wasn't like a straight path to where you're at now.
No.
Fill in the gap here. What's going on?
Sure. Yeah. So when we left the corporate job, we had that scarcity rising within us, right? Like we were leaving behind corporate jobs, corporate salaries, the benefits, the promotions, all the stuff. And so that scarcity was rising, and we were like, well, we're losing that corporate income. We got to figure out a way how we're going to replace that quick. And so we did some research, and 90% of millionaires make their money in real estate. So that has to be where we go. Real estate. We're going to be real estate investors. And so we start the company, we start the business, we invest the dollars in a coach and in the marketing and a website and all this stuff, because we're going to, and there is a humanistic approach to it. There's a really crushing housing market where we were living at the time. And we're going to help first-time home buyers crack into that market. We're going to find homes that they can afford to buy, but also help investors make lots of money, and also ourselves. And so that was what we were going to do. We start this process, we start this business, and we're going through it. And we realize that we hate this work.
Miserable.
Absolutely hate it. It was basically like signing up for our corporate job again, except with the added benefit of
$0,
like no paycheck at the end of the day. So it was like way worse. And not only that, but the actual worst part about it was it started to impact this relationship right here. And we were so up until this point, we had been very, very intentional about building a rock solid foundation, being our relationship, that we build everything else on. The rest of our life builds on the foundation of what we have here.
Mm-hmm.
So we were very intentional about that. And when we realized that this business that we had started, chasing money, which is never a good thing, it started to impact this foundation. And that's when we were like, okay, we have to have a conversation here. What are we doing? And so we did what we call the throwing the challenge flag. It's kind of like a football reference where, the coach throws the challenge flag to have a play reviewed on the field, call on the field reviewed. And so basically that's what we did. We threw a challenge flag and we reviewed the decision that we had made to start this company to just basically chase money for, we can mask it any way we want with all the, the heart stuff that we were going to help a bunch of people. But really at the end of the day, we were chasing money. And we decided that we can't do that. And we hadn't, the other lesson we learned was we hadn't done the work to understand who we are, what we want to be, how we're going to serve the world, what our purpose is going to be. Essentially, the thing that we left our corporate career for, we still hadn't done the work to understand what that was yet. And so that's then when we undertook that, we decided right then and there, we're going to close this company and we're going to take that journey and we're going to figure out who we are, who we want to be, and how we're going to serve the world.
Mm-hmm. We decided it's us above everything. So if this is undermining our relationship, creating little cracks in the foundation because we're both so miserable, shut her down. Doesn't matter how much we've invested in it. We're both miserable. Why would we keep trying to push this boulder uphill? Shut it down. To his point. So I think that first lesson was us above everything is rule number one. Second lesson is don't chase money, because what happens when you chase anything? It runs away. And so, chasing money is never going to get you fulfillment. And I'd love to tell you that we actually learned that lesson right here in this moment in time that we're explaining. For the purposes of the story, we'll say that we did, but we did not. We tried a few other things first. One of them involving driving 20 hours in a blizzard to eat a grilled cheese sandwich. And neither of us today eat bread or cheese. So that was not a good move either. So we did eventually learn it, but for the sake of the story, we learned it right then. And then the third lesson is you need to do the work on you to know who you are, who you want to be, and what you want to offer the world before you jump into creating a business, because otherwise chances are you don't create a business that aligns with any of that because you don't know what any of that is yet. So those were the sort of three big lessons I would say that we took from this particular period of time. But I guess we still haven't answered your question because we still haven't gotten to where we are.
So then we basically undertook this personal growth journey. It is essentially what we did. And so we just decided in that moment, we're just going to go on its personal growth journey. We're going to focus. We're going to put the focus on money, that scarcity. We're going to put that to the side, and we're just going to go and focus on us and who we want to be. And then we went on to all these, we listened to all the podcasts, all the books. We went to all these personal growth events. And it was at one of these personal growth events that we really started to dial in the coaching aspect.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, at these events, we'd have people coming up to us to ask us relationship questions. Like, you guys are doing this together. I can't get my husband or wife to come, or they don't really get it. Or people would just come up and strangers and just ask us questions. And so we just answered them and helped people and really enjoyed it, but we didn't get there yet. It hadn't clicked for us yet. We were just kind of one-off helping random people who would ask us. And then at one of these events, the guy hosting the event came up to us and said, I want you two to speak on stage at my next event about relationships. And we were like, whoa, maybe there's something here that we can give the world. Like, we've been helping all these people, just sort of one-off strangers. Like, maybe there's more to this. And it was in sort of preparing for that first talk, which I'm talking about our podcast, looking back on like, oh dear, but we were so scared, preparing for that first talk and really codifying what we've done that really worked for us and worked for other people, was the seed of everything. It was that's what our whole relationship coaching practice has been built on, was that first seed from that first talk, which was pretty cool.
There's so many questions, but I think the most important one was, where is this amazing grilled cheese that you drove 20 hours for a grilled cheese sandwich?
Salt Lake City, Utah.
That's right. Yeah, there was we drove from San Diego, California to Salt Lake City, Utah for a grilled cheese sandwich. And then but that was, we had to be in Arizona. We had to go to Phoenix. So it was actually supposed to be a 5-hour drive, but we went all the way to Salt Lake down to Phoenix.
Yeah, because we were thinking of investing in a grilled cheese franchise. Because like, who doesn't like grilled cheeses, right? Like everyone likes grilled cheese. That's a great way to make money. And it was interesting, chasing money. So that's how we got there.
But this is actually where we learned that lesson.
This is where we learned it, because when we were talking to the founder and the franchise guy, we had, there was three of them there and us, we were asking questions around like the mission and the vision and the values for this company. And could that align with us? And they couldn't tell us what the values were, what the mission was. It was just like, we like people to be happy. Grilled cheeses make people happy. So that's what we're doing. And we left that meeting. The grilled cheeses were fantastic, by the way. We had multiple different types of grilled cheeses. All of them were very good, but there was nothing that we could sort of hitch our wagon to, like nothing we could align with. And I think that was kind of also our first indication that we were doing the work and our values had become really important to us, and how we wanted to serve the world. The vehicle for doing that was important to us, and just grilled cheeses because they're delicious wasn't quite enough for us to, we left the corporate world because we weren't fulfilled and wanted to contribute, and that wasn't going to quite fill that void inside of us.
What can we say the franchise on there? Can we say that?
Do I even remember the name of it?
It used to be called Melty, I think. I don't think it's big outside of Utah. I think it started in Utah. They only had a couple in Utah.
They had two franchises in Utah.
They might be bigger now in other places, but it was small at the time. I don't know what it is. And I think they did a rebrand right around or just after that. So I don't know what it's called now.
But they were delicious. They were highly recommend. Yeah.
Absolutely. If you see one, stop in for grilled cheese. They are fantastic.
Yeah, I'm thinking I was down there for like 4 months in 2008. And I never found this place.
Too early.
Okay. I was just like, did I totally miss like the best grilled cheese ever while I was there?
Yes, you did, but you were just too early.
I was living out of a hotel eating out for 4 months. So, it's like,
okay.
I thought I found all the best dining in Salt Lake City. So
you did.
Gonna be really fun. I gotta ask you guys' perspective on this, because I enjoy working with my spouse, and I have several friends in the industry who work with their spouses and enjoy it. But I meet so many people who are like, how do you work with your spouse? Now, it's obvious you guys enjoy working together.
Yep.
Right. So what do you say to people who are like, how do you work with your spouse? Because I don't get it. I'm not objective anymore.
Yeah. I would just say, how come you don't? I love it. Like I don't know. For me, there's nothing better than being able to build your dream and serve the world and do it with your best friend. Like, for me, who's got it better than us? Nobody. Like, I don't understand the other way, I guess.
We never even, it's funny because we've had a similar question before with a follow-up of, how did you decide to work together? And it was like, we actually didn't consciously make that decision. We didn't even consider the alternative because we left the corporate world together. We just assumed we would build something together. Like, we didn't even consider an alternative, which was I would build something and he would build something at the same time, but separately. We just did it this way. Yeah.
And I think when you're going through this entrepreneurial journey, like it's a hard road to hoe. Like it's a tough road. And if you have someone shoulder to shoulder, kind of to be able to take some of that, weight off with you, it just lightens the load and makes it a little easier too. Like, I'm not saying it's easy, because it's certainly not, but it just becomes a little easier when you know you have someone next to you who's right there sword drawn, ready to go to battle with you, but also understands what you're going through because they're going through the exact same thing.
And I think for a lot of people, entrepreneurship can be isolating and a bit lonely. And even with each other, it still feels that way because, you know, the norm for most of us was go to get the corporate job. And so a lot of our family and friends, while love us and want to support us, they don't really understand the inside of what we're trying to do. And so it can sometimes feel a little lonely, even though we have each other. So I can't imagine how lonely it would feel without having the other person. But I think some things that help with that is one that we just really enjoy spending time together. Like even in our corporate job, we work down the hall from each other. So we'd walk to work together. We'd grab a coffee in the morning together. We would go for lunch and go for a walk together. We'd walk home together at the end of the day. We would make dinner together and then we would hang out in the evening together. Like, so even though we didn't work in the same, room at the tower, we worked in different offices, we still spent most of our time together. And now it's like we are within arm's length of each other 95% of the day. So I think one, it helps to just really like spending time together. But the other thing that helps is still knowing what hat you're wearing when, and not confusing the business partner hat and the spouse hat. And so we try to make a solid effort to turn off the computers and turn off business in the evening. So it's just us and we'll play a game of Yahtzee or we'll watch a game or we'll do something. But we usually separate work and not work time, work and spouse time, with usually a walk or we'll make supper and like something to sort of break up the day. So it's like, okay, we're done with work now. It's done for the night. Let's just hang out and catch up on our days. Because that's the other thing is I feel like for us and for most people, for everyone, you experience everything slightly differently. Like we're on this podcast with you, but we're going to experience it differently. So we're going to go for a walk later and probably debrief our personal experience, even though we are literally like we're touching the whole way through. We're right here with you together. We're still going to experience it differently. And I'm still curious, what his favorite part was, or, we'll debrief our experiences on this later, and then we'll move on to our evening and we'll probably play a game of Yahtzee and hang out.
We're going to dinner with friends.
Right. We're going to go to dinner with friends. That's right.
Feel free and talk trash about me afterwards. I'm like,
we definitely won't.
Definitely not.
One of the things you guys said in our correspondence that really caught my attention was you don't believe relationships work when it's 50-50, especially in your marriage. And I heard so many people was like, oh yeah, we're in this together, 50-50. It's like, I'm not sure that math adds up the way you think it does. And so to have you guys say that was like, oh yeah, I need to hear more about this. So you want to explain that philosophy a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. So 50-50 is, you take 50 or you take 50% responsibility, I'll take 50% responsibility. But like what 50% is yours, what 50% is mine, there's gray area and it leaves room for ambiguity, not knowing who's doing what or who's accountable for what. Like, oh, she apologized. She hasn't apologized yet. I'm going to wait. She should apologize first. I'm not apologizing. And then scorekeeping, resentment build. Whereas if you take 100% responsibility as an individual and your spouse takes 100% responsibility as an individual, then it eliminates all that scorekeeping and resentment, because if an apology needs to be made, you just step up and you make it. If something needs to be done around the house, you just step up and you just do it. When you see something needs to be done, you just do it. And so it's really about going that final percent for each other and having a 100% mindset for yourself and 100% mindset for them, which is like we adopted this 200% marriage. So you want to have a 200% marriage where both partners are giving and taking 100% accountability for everything in the relationship.
Like you are each 100% responsible for the state of your marriage. If something's not working, you are accountable to change it. And to his point, like we hear it so often. Yeah, I know I could apologize for something, but what he did was worse, and he hasn't apologized to me yet. And if I apologize to him and then he just gets off scot-free without apologizing to me, or I know I should forgive him for that, but he hasn't apologized for it, so I can't forgive him until he apologizes. And it's like, no. If you owe an apology, regardless of what happened with somebody else over here, deliver the apology, because you are 100% responsible for how you show up and what your relationship is like. And if you need to forgive someone for something, it would be nice if they apologize, but it's not a prerequisite. You forgive for your benefit.
The only thing you can control in this life is your thoughts, feelings, and actions. So it's on you to take that responsibility to just control what you can control. You can't control what anyone else does, including what your spouse does. Sometimes we'd like to be able to, but that's just not the case. You just can't. So it's on you to take ownership of the status or the place where your relationship is right now.
And the hardest part of that is letting go of your ego. That's the hardest part of that. It's usually your pride and your ego that gets in the way of you stepping up and taking on your full 100%.
Yeah.
You guys are going to radicalize marriage if you keep talking about personal responsibility for your marriage. Like both sides taking personal responsibility for 100% of their marriage. We might actually like reverse this trend if more people get this.
Wouldn't it be cool?
Wouldn't it be fantastic?
Everyone's happier. Everyone feels fulfilled and supported and lifted up in their marriage. It would be amazing.
Now, kind of turning this back a little bit. So, would you say your marriage is foundationally the strength for your entrepreneurship and everything else you are trying to do? It all comes back to you two together.
Correct.
Yeah. I firmly believe that if your relationship, like if you're in a relationship and it is not going well, you're constantly fighting, you're putting out fires,
walking on eggshells,
then you are not in a place where you can give your all to the other areas of your life, because your energy it's not only is it expended in dealing with the issues at home, but it's also distracting when you're not at home and you're focused on other things. You're thinking about the fight you just had with your spouse or whatever. Your mind is not on the task at hand, building your business or doing the work to, better your fitness or whatever it is that you're focused on. And so it really is the bedrock, the foundation. When this is going well, you have now a newfound energy because it's not focused on this, it's focused outward onto the things that you want to do in your life. But not only that, but your spouse also has that added benefit of having that energy because it's not being spent on the relationship, fixing the relationship. And so now it's an exponential kind of energy that you guys now both have as a collective unit that you can now go and use towards your building your dream life and building your business and getting in the best shape of your life. It's the foundation for everything.
So I want to kind of start and build from the foundation up here with you guys. When I was getting ready for the show, I like I said, I was watching through some of your videos, and you made a point of talking about your relationship with yourself has to be positive first. I think a lot of people get married trying to like fill a hole without fixing them first.
Yeah.
So let's talk about that first foundation and making this all successful.
Yeah. The relationship with yourself, and I wish I learned this years ago, but I'm glad I learned it when I did. The relationship with yourself is the fundamental relationship in your life. It's the only one you have from the day you're born till the day you die. It's the one that every other relationship is built on. So when that relationship isn't working, none of your relationships are going to work because the foundation isn't level, it isn't strong. And in order to be able to, you can only love and respect somebody else and receive from them love and respect to the degree that you love and respect yourself. And so if you don't love yourself, believe that you're good enough, believe that you're worthy of love, when you receive it, it's either not going to land for you or you're going to sabotage it. You're going to seek out relationships that you feel you're worthy of, or you're going to sabotage relationships that you think are beyond what you're worthy of. And I believe, we both believe, that there is an unworthiness epidemic in the world. Most of us, that was actually our first big realization in personal growth was we both had a limiting belief around not being good enough. We worded it differently, but the root of it was not being good enough, not being smart enough, not being whatever, fill in the blank enough. And we're not alone in that. Most people today have a level of not being fill in the blank enough for whatever it is that they want. And I believe a big part of that is there's billion-dollar companies telling you you're not good enough so that you'll buy their creams or their clothes or their whatever, right? Like there's our whole economy is predicated on us not feeling good enough so that we'll buy the stuff to make us feel good. And so in order for your relationships to be strong, whether it's your marriage, whether it's your siblings, your friendships, your business partner, whatever it is, you have to believe you're worthy of having that thriving relationship. And if you don't, you won't ever have it. It just, you won't have it if you don't think you deserve it.
Now, say, I'm hearing myself echo, sorry. Say our relationship, like my relationship with myself is pretty good. My wife's pretty strong there. What strategies do you offer to help strengthen relationships as everybody, because we live in like a stupidly busy society. Can I say it that way? Is that offensive? We just live in this ridiculously busy society that rewards the concept of being busy. Like oh yeah, you're doing something real if you're busy all the time. Your calendar's always full. And relationships often take a back seat. So what do you recommend to couples to build and strengthen their relationships as they're trying to have their careers and have kids and all this stuff out?
Mm-hmm.
So relationships, like anything in your life, require intention. Like the things that matter to you need to be a priority. So I would say one of the things we say is you have to be really intentional about scheduling time together and being very intentional with that time, because you are so busy in other areas of your life. You need to be very intentional with the questions you ask. And it's about reconnecting and asking questions like, instead of how was your day today, honey? It's more, what was the best part of your day? What's something you learned today? It's about connecting. So I would say one, focused time on your relationship and like schedule it, because otherwise it gets put on the back burner. So if you schedule gym time, if you schedule work time, if you schedule kids time, schedule relationship time. And then with that time, be very intentional and about reconnecting on an emotional level and getting vulnerable and asking questions and leading with curiosity.
I was going to also add, and have fun.
Oh, 100%.
When things stop being fun, we stop wanting to do them. And to your point, fun doesn't usually make the to-do list. The lists are so long. We all have so much on our plate. There's so many things we all want to get accomplished that fun seems to get lost at some point. Like, I'm sure you and your wife used to have a lot of fun. Most people had fun when they first started dating. That's why they ended up married. Like, everyone had fun at some point. That's why they're still together today. That's why they got married. But at some point along the way, fun became less of a priority because life is really busy. And to Craig's point, the important stuff gets our attention. And if we look at our schedules, if we look at where we spend our time, does it actually reflect the priorities that you say are priorities to you? So if you ask yourself, what are my top 3 priorities in life, or my top 5 priorities in my life? And then you look at your calendar. Does your calendar reflect those priorities? And if there's a misalignment there, how are you going to fix that? What needs to be added to your calendar? And I had one other thought. Where did it go? We get in the habit of saying, I don't have time. I don't have time is so much easier to say than that's not a priority for me. So if your kid wants you to read them a story, it's a lot easier to say, I don't have time, than say, that's not a priority for me. So even just trying to change those words out helps you see the misalignment in your behavior and what you say your priorities are, so that you can then change your behavior to align with your priorities.
I love that you guys focus on fun. Getting ready for the show, I kept seeing this in verbiage you guys use on like your website and your social media. This focus on fun. I thought, and I did. I caught myself looking. It's like, how much time do I just actually focus on having fun with my wife? We had this and this and this and this going. We're both working multiple gigs.
Mhm.
Actually, like just like we struggled to get date night in. Like I got really intentional about it for a while, and then life got complicated. We stopped being able to go out as much, and it's like, when was the last time we had a date night? But it's like we were working to have like one of those a week, and then it's like I started reading and looking through you guys' stuff. And it's like, when was the last time I just like focused on having fun with Sarah?
Mhm.
Oh, ooh.
Mhm.
And like I said, I've been married for almost 24 years. My wife and I have a great relationship. Is it perfect? We have a great relationship. We have a thriving marriage. But even as intentional as we are about our marriage, most of the time, so much slides in there, and we miss these things. And it's like, oh man, how are people holding it together when we're generally more intentional about our marriage than a lot of people seem to be?
Mhm.
And we're still like, man, we should work on that. Oh wow, we need to work on that.
Yeah. I think one of the really cool things that we try to do regularly is because a lot of life is the mundane stuff of getting through life of dinners and laundry and kids off to wherever they need to go, and it takes up a lot of time. But if you can find fun in those moments, like just fun in the mundane, we call it the fundane, and it's just really about connecting in those little moments. Every moment of the day where you guys are kind of near each other is a moment to connect or disconnect. And so you can like grab a shoulder or play a quick game of like, if you're making the bed or something, who can do it the fastest, or like just little games, silly, stupid, sometimes little games that you maybe would have played with as a kid, but why can't you do it as an adult? Like, just have fun and laugh in those little moments. Like, do karaoke, doing dishes, or have a dance off in the kitchen. Like, it's while making dinner. It's about finding those little connection points throughout the day.
Did you ever play as a kid, like in gym class with the big parachute, and then you'd like get under it? Like when we wash the sheets and we're making the bed again, like when we're getting the sheet out, we play it like it's the parachute in gym class and you're in grade 3. Like just once or twice, like just because it just kind of is just a funny, silly thing. We've got you might have seen it in some of our stuff. Like he created arts and crafts, made a cardboard penis cutout because we got something in the mail like way back in 2020. Our company sent us like COVID masks, and it came like on a piece of cardboard that looked remarkably like a penis. So he made a couple of minor tweaks, and it certainly fit the bill. And we just hide that thing, like when we're folding, like if I'm folding clothes or he's putting clothes away, he'll like slide it into a pair of my pants so that like in 3 days I go to put pants on, it's like, oh, he got me, and then it's my turn and I hide it. And it's like it's those little tiny things that we make a goal to laugh together every single day, like at least once every single day, find an opportunity to like have a giggle together over some stupid inside joke. Or it's like it doesn't have to be a great big thing. It doesn't have to be like, let's put aside 3 hours to have fun. That is helpful for sure, but also that 95% of life is the mundane stuff. So we're staying in an Airbnb right now, and they have a couple of games there. And so we haven't played Yahtzee since we were kids, but like 3 times in the last week is like, you want to play Yahtzee? Yeah, sure. Because it's kind of a short game and it's kind of fun. And so we just found ourselves playing Yahtzee a few times this week in the evenings instead of watching TV because it's there and it's kind of fun. And so maximizing that sort of day-to-day regular time that already exists, because chances are you walk by each other in the kitchen at some point in your day and you have the opportunity of either just kind of walking around her or kind of tapping her bum on the way by or squeezing her arm on the way, having some sort of physical touch as you walk by. So creating that sort of microsecond of connection as you're just reaching around her to get the bowl out of the cupboard. Like there's you're around each other during the day at some point, and every time you're there, you have the opportunity of creating a connection or just kind of continuing on your day. And it takes no time at all to do that, but it creates that, it takes you one step closer together instead of one step further apart.
I got to ask you guys an opinion on this because, excuse me, I cannot walk by my wife without touching her. Like it's not even possible for me. I physically cannot be close to her without putting my hand in her somehow. And I've seen like this whole Zennial thing where women are like rejecting the old time-tested, like I don't know any guy who has a healthy marriage who doesn't walk by his wife and pat her backside or something on the way by. Like I don't know anybody with a healthy marriage who doesn't do that. Mm-hmm. And I've seen these younger Zennial age group women going, well, he didn't have permission for that, and he's treating her like a sexual object. And I think, yeah, it has made my marriage work really well. The fact that I want to touch my wife doesn't seem to, but the fact that you would have to, in a healthy marriage, you're asking, or that they think that this is inappropriate. Have you guys encountered that? I see it on social media. Like, what's wrong with you?
What's wrong with them? I think there's stories we tell ourselves, right? And so the person that you're referring to, obviously I don't know this person, but she can tell herself a story that she's being objectified as a piece of meat and that this is wrong, or she can tell herself the story that she is in a relationship with someone who really loves her and desires her and is playful with her and wants a connection with her. And we all have those opportunities every day to tell ourselves stories that serve us in our relationship or don't. And I would say that the majority of the people that we, interact with and that we know are more on kind of your line of thinking. And we haven't really encountered much of the younger millennial.
No.
Or what was the Zennial?
So like Gen Z,
Gen Z,
young millennial Gen Z. Is that?
Yeah, young millennial into the beginning of Gen Z.
Yeah. And I think I 100% agree. Stories is where I was going to go too. The other thing is, in the broader context of your relationship, like he is exactly like you. I hope you feel very seen because he is exactly like you. My bum has been tapped millions of times, and I don't ever feel objectified or like a piece of meat because that is not how I'm treated when I look at the whole picture of our relationship. If our relationship was different and that bum tap was indicative of a much broader problem, then okay, we've got something else to deal with here. But in the context of our relationship where we are teammates, we are on the same team, we're working towards the same goals, we respect each other, then in no way does it feel bad, wrong, toxic, any of those things.
Yeah, I do think that the track record also plays a part. If the relationship is already a bit toxic, then that could be toxic as well. It could be more possessive than, connecting. And then obviously then you have to question whether you're in the right relationship. So
exactly, in the right relationship where you are equals, teammates, respected, there's zero wrong for me in a lovely little bum tap. And if that feels wrong to you, then going back to the relationship with yourself, where is the disconnect? Why is that making you feel less than? And then that's a deep and important and vulnerable conversation to have with your spouse that or your person, that this doesn't make me feel good and I'm trying to work through why. Let me talk about this with you so we can understand. Maybe for the time being, I'd rather if you squeezed my arm or gave me a hug or something else while I figure out what's being triggered for me. But otherwise, I 100% agree that I don't know anyone that we've worked with or anyone that we know that a little bum tap doesn't go a long way to feeling connected together in your marriage.
right? Hey, I love it when my wife walks by and slaps my butt. Yay! After 24 likes me. Yes.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I can't go up the stair. I got to run up the stairs. Like,
I'm coming.
Fair enough. Guys, I talk mainly to men, and as men, we love lists. Like, put actionable lists together for us. So help us out. What are the first 3 steps our listeners can implement into their relationship right now to try and put the relationship onto a healthier track?
Schedule time together. If you're not already spending a lot of time together or enough time together for whatever that is for you guys, if you feel disconnected, then I would say 1, make sure you're intentional about getting that time together.
And
that's
it can
number
be
1.
any time of day, right? Like, we think of date night as it has to be in the evening. We have to go for dinner. It doesn't have, there's no rules. It doesn't have to be anything. It can be at 5 a.m. if that's what works for you guys. Get up and have a cup of coffee together without your phones and just connect with each other. There's no rules around what that time needs to look like, except that you need to be engaged with each other. And that's why I find walks work really well, because usually one of you or both of you aren't on your phone while you're walking and completely distracted. You're a little bit more present in the moment when you're outside and kind of putting one foot in front of the other. So I agree. The scheduling of time and being really intentional with what that time looks like.
That's step 1.
Step 2, I would say, is a check-in conversation at the end of each day or at the beginning. We usually do it at the end of the day. That's why I say end of the day, but it can be in the morning. And the check-in conversation kind of builds on what he was saying earlier. It's a really specific question. When you ask your spouse, how was your day? Or like, what do you have on the go today? You're going to get a pretty generic answer, because it doesn't feel like a question that's coming from a place of I actually want to know. It feels like it's coming from a place of habit. Whereas if you ask something like, what was the best part of your day today? Or what are you most looking forward to in your day today? Or what was the biggest lesson you learned? Or what was the biggest frustration you had in your day? Something really specific makes the other person feel like you actually want to know, because you do actually want to know. That's why you ask. But the specificity of the question, 1, makes the other person feel like you actually care about the answer, and 2, it prompts a more thoughtful answer from the other person, because it's kind of outside of the usual one-word answers. So they have to think about it for a second, and then they give you a more thoughtful answer, which then tends to prompt a conversation that goes a little bit below surface level. And you got to get the conversations that go below surface level to keep the connection, because conversations that are, how was your day? Fine. How was yours? Fine. And then you're done. Those are not the conversations that keep your connection strong.
And then the third one, I think, is dream together and understand what you guys both want, and make a plan to integrate those dreams together, because then that forms your North Star that you can now, it basically helps with all the decisions that you make going forward. Does this help me get closer to our dreams or further away from our dreams? If it's further away, don't do that thing. If it's closer, then let's do that thing together. So dream. This is the third step. Dream together. And
we were just talking about this actually in our mastermind call this morning, because we had a coaching call with some folks that had just done this dreaming exercise, like in our coaching session the week before. And then the next week they were kind of embroiled in a disagreement and some pettiness, and they were kind of caught up in their stuff, and it becomes so much easier to say, hey, what are we focused on here? Is it all this dreaming that we did last week? Like, this is where we want to go, but we're never going to get there when we're in this space. And so it really helps pull you out when you don't have those dreams articulated that you can point to and that you've agreed on. Then whatever you're dealing with in the moment, whatever that sort of disagreement is, because we all disagree, it's a healthy part of a relationship, but being able to pull yourself out and disagree productively and get through it is much easier to do when you know where you're going. It keeps in perspective that this is the big prize. This is a blip on the radar. This isn't the whole thing. This is one tiny little piece of our journey to get here. So that having the dreams articulated really keeps the daily frustration, pettiness things in perspective of where you're actually trying to go. It's really critical.
What's next for Craig and Meredith?
Ooh. Well, we did just launch a mastermind, which has been going super well. So we're super excited about that. We are going to write a book this year. We're taking that on. So we're super pumped about that.
Yeah, I think this year for us, what's next is really the mastermind. We just launched it last month. So we're going to put a lot of focus there and building that mastermind and making it the best thing we've ever done. We're also going to write a book. And the other thing is we're going to expand our podcast a little bit. Yeah. So those are, I would say, the three big things
big focuses
that are on
for
that.
2025.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
What's the website?
www.roadoflifecoaching.com.
Guys, if you're watching the video version of that, we have that up on screen. We will, of course, have all of Craig and Meredith's connection points down for you in the show notes and description, whatever platform you're on. Now, I know everybody, is that the best place to connect with you? Let me pause there. Is that the best connection for you, or are you better on social media?
I would say Instagram.
Yeah. We're more active on Instagram for sure. So at Meredith and Craig on Instagram, that's where we have the most fun. So come hang out with us there.
We'll have that there as well. And their Instagram is a lot of fun, guys. I've been staying off Instagram for a little bit. Little space between me and Instagram. I was getting,
Yeah.
I spread myself too thin and got on too many platforms at once. And it's like, this is not serving me. So, guys, they do have a fun Instagram. That's where I found the goat yoga joke, and you definitely check that out. I definitely want updates on that. And I know you're all really concerned about what BAE stands for in slang. So I looked this up in the slang dictionary, and I honestly thought it was just like a lazy version of babe. Apparently, supposedly, it means before anyone else.
Oh, okay. I like that.
Before anyone else. Did not know that.
I was today years old when I learned that.
Learned something new today.
Right? Yeah, I totally went with this. Like, I thought, wow, the Gen Z is getting even lazier. We've shortened babe to bae.
We just eliminated the second B because that's just too hard.
That's like a second syllable, right? Because you have to pronounce the B. Oh, no. Craig, Meredith, before we wrap it out today, what is the most important thing you want our audience to hear?
I would say the most important thing that I want the audience to hear is that if you're struggling in your relationship, it does not have to be that way. And whether it's with us or anyone else, to me, it's just we want to see you win, and that there are people out there who want to help you. So don't go alone and don't suffer in silence and don't settle for something that you don't deserve. Like you deserve the best. And there are lots of people out there who would love to help you and support you.
That's basically what I was going to say. You are worthy of the relationship and the life of your dreams. So don't settle.
Craig, Meredith, thanks for hanging out with us today and coming on the show and sharing some great insights with us, guys. Your core route foundation is the foundation of everything you want to do. If you're ready to go from living to thriving, you can't go alone, especially if you're already married, right? That relationship, if you want to go and they don't, that's not going to work. You have to nurture that and build that foundational relationship. And that is the great secret to going from living to thriving, is you got to go together. So thank you for sharing with us today, guys. Thanks for hanging out with us. As always, be better tomorrow because of what you do today. And we'll see you on the next one.
The Driven to Thrive broadcast. Purpose, growth, and lasting impact for men. Helping men go from living to thriving, purpose-filled, intentional lives.